Welcome back. Join the conversation online on Twitter or send an email to businessmorning@channelstv.com. We turn our attention now to the commodities market, and Okwemi Oguntade, Senior Investment Analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, joins me now. Good morning to you, Okwemi. Thank you so much for coming on the program. So, what's the latest from the market? Now we've finished the Ramadan fast, and of course we celebrated Eid al-Fitr. One would have expected that the prices of domestic agri-commodities would have begun to drop, but we've not really seen that.
Well, prices in the market right now are pretty much stable because there's low market activity. Traders are complaining that there are not too many buyers coming into the market at this point because of the Ramadan fast that is over. And so what we're seeing in the market is prices are pretty much stable. But based on what we've seen in the month of June, FCC, we forecast that inflation is going to decline marginally to 15.5% because we saw a significant drop in a couple of significant commodities. Tomatoes, for one, dropped from about 45,000 naira for a basket to 20 to 25,000 naira. We also saw a rise declining from 16,000 naira to 13,000 naira. So all this put together, we've actually seen a decline in commodity prices in the month of June. But for now, prices are stable in the market.
So it's supposed to be better days ahead, especially since we know in computing inflation numbers, food prices usually is one of those factors that actually drives inflation numbers. But then in the last couple of days, even though we know that most of the vehicles that are used to transport, food items from the rural to urban area are petrol-driven, not diesel. But we still see that diesel continues to affect also diesel and the price of kerosene as well, which have been rising astronomically. We're still trying to get the reasons why. How much of an effect has this had also on the commodities?
So far, so good. We haven't seen any significant impact on commodity prices. But going forward, this event pretty much started happening towards the end of June and into July. So going forward, if these spikes are not contained before the end of July, then it will definitely feed into inflation figures for the month of July, and we would see a reversal in the trend of inflation. That's from a slowing inflation back to a spike. But at this point in time, the Nigerian public or the Nigerians cannot afford to have another era or another round of petrol scarcity, be it diesel, be it kerosene, be it petrol, because right now all workers are having a strike, or they're in talks with the federal government to end the strike. But right now, we can't really afford another round of scarcity because our disposable incomes are already low. They've been eroded by previous inflation figures. They've also been eroded by the fact that the naira value has depreciated significantly in the foreign exchange market. So we're hoping that going forward in the month of July, the federal government will be able to curtail this spikes we're seeing in the market.
But in the immediate term, and looking at, even though we know that the federal government is in talks with the oil labor unions with regards, addressing all the issues that they've put forward, are there any specific items that you would say have recorded price stability?
One particular commodity that we know is it's stable. In fact, we haven't seen any significant change is beans. Beans has remained stable at about 16,000. But other commodities, we haven't seen a spike in commodity prices. Like I mentioned, in the month of June, there was actually a decline. And then if you're also looking at the price of petrol, the national average between the month of April and May actually declined. And the national average price of petrol was about 163 naira for a litre in the month of April, and in the month of May it dropped down to 150, and we're expecting that in the month of June it to converge closer towards the pump price, which is 145 naira. So we're actually seeing a decline in petrol prices. But with this oil workers strike, if it's not ended as soon as possible, then we would, because the oil workers have stopped lifting petroleum products from the depots. So this would definitely affect PMS, and we risk having another petrol scarcity. So if we do have that, then we would probably see that feeding into other commodities such as rice and tomatoes once again.
Which ones for you are the ones to look out for, the immediate food items that are usually affected as soon as we have any issues with regards to petrol?
Like I rightly mentioned, rice, tomatoes, and other commodities that we track, maize, they will definitely have, because all these goods are transported from various areas in the Nigerian geopolitical zones towards the commercial hub, which is Lagos. So this will definitely have an effect on most commodities across boards.
Now, from your report, severe weather conditions are still a threat to food production globally. How do you think this will impact, if any, have any impact on our domestic agri commodities?
It depends on the commodities that we're importing. For instance, wheat, like I mentioned in the report, we're having weather conditions in the U.S. in the Midwest region is affecting wheat production, as well as in the European Union, as well in France. And then Nigeria imports a significant amount of wheat, durum wheat. And so if we're seeing wheat prices increasing in the international market, it's definitely going to feed into the price of flour in Nigeria, because we know that we produce flour from wheat. So yes, that's how Nigeria will be affected by such if the price trend continues. Plus, coupled with the fact that the naira has been depreciated, this will definitely feed into the price of flour.
So we have currently flour, 50 kilogram of flour in Lagos is selling at 9,500.
Yes.
In Kano is at 9,800, and Onitsha is 9,900. And of course, we have a number of companies as well that use wheat in production of most of their products. So that also is like a significant down for them.
Yeah, this will definitely affect, for instance, flour mills, Honeywell. These are companies, fast-moving consumer goods, in the fast-moving consumer goods sector that make use of wheat in production of their products. So if we see a significant increase in the price of wheat in the international market, coupled with the currency exchange depreciation, then we'll see that prices of their products would increase. In fact, flour mills price, the price of, as you've seen in the report, it was 9.5, and this increase came in at about June, and the reason for the increase was actually as a result of currency exchange scarcity. But now that in the markets we've seen that the CBN has come in to float the naira, we're hoping that with forward contracts, maybe this fast-moving consumer firms can make use of these contracts to mitigate the impact of currency exchange, but then they still have to deal with the increase of prices in the international market.
So what's your immediate outlook for the market? Are you positive?
For now, based on what we've seen happening in the months of July, with the increase in the prices of diesel and kerosene and the imminent petrol scarcity, it's not looking too positive. But we're hoping that the federal government will be able to resolve these issues.
Okpeyemi, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me
and sharing your perspectives with us. Of course, we're still talking about commodities. We're moving away from agri-commodities and focusing on stuff happening here in the Nigeria energy market. Let's start with the markets from yesterday, taking a look at some of those oil and gas stocks that we track on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and mostly grey shoots unchanged for Forte Oil, Mobil, MRS, Forte Oil, Mobil, Seplat, and Total. Only two stocks that saw any form of movement recorded drops. The MRS dropped 3.17% to finish at 33 naira 61 kobo. We had a volume of 4,995. Owando shed 7.45% to close at 7 naira 45 kobo. Also a massive volume of 14.43 million shares traded by investors. So these two losses recorded saw a drop in the daily index to 1.1%. Year to date is at 6.6%. Price to earnings 25.50, and dividend yield at 1.9%. Obosun joins me again in the studio as we continue our focus on developments in the Nigeria energy market. So much to chew over. Bosun, you've got your head wrapped around.
Where we finished up.
Yes, from where we finished up, particularly the story with regards AMCON and MRS
and MIS Holdings. I think that's a very a significant story for the industry and for those who are energy stock trader, and they'll be looking at this. Again, if you look at MRS, and you have that, MIS Oil PLC is a subsidiary of MIS Holdings, and what AMCON sent to everyone yesterday, and we got our hands on that, was a secured Lagos Federal High Court order to begin a systematic wind-up of MIS Holdings with the subsidiaries that are in there. 81 billion naira is the debt that the asset management company says MIS has. And MIS is into oil lifting, is into part of the oil swap deal, one of the indigenous companies that the new administration, the NNPC, approved to be part of the oil swap deal. So they're into upstream, downstream, a bit of those
a major
businesses.
player, if you like to call it.
Yes, a major player. 81 billion naira for the company is a lot of money. How did this come through? We hope to begin to unwind it if we're going to begin to investigate a lot more how they wound up with that money. How much of this is in the oil lifting whatever business, and what part of that 81 billion is for MRS Oil PLC, which is listed on the stock exchange? What this means, and I think this is not the end of the conversation, is that if you wind up the holding company, you're going to wind up MRS Oil PLC, which is a listed oil trader on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Where does the MRS Oil PLC go from here, which will involve thousands and thousands of shareholders? That would have to involve the SEC on one hand and the Nigerian Stock Exchange somehow, as this conversation go on about winding it up, if it eventually holds, and if MIS Holdings doesn't go to court and try to say, look, AMCON doesn't have the right or whatever that is. But right now what we have, I said yesterday, was that the agency for the government, AMCON, is set to do that wind up of the MRS Holdings.
So how does that affect MRS shares? You know, for a very long time, when we started, especially when we started tracking, you know, this
the big seven.
Yes, the big seven, and MRS was one of them. We didn't see so much of any movement. But following this news, and just yesterday, we saw 3.17% off this particular equity.
That looks like some folks got a wind of what was going to happen. Of course, if you a shareholder and you hold very large portion of MRS Oil PLC, the subsidiary of MRS Holdings listed on the exchange, I'm sure definitely on a daily basis, if you have it in your portfolio, you will definitely be tracking this court case. It's not new, it's not fresh. They've been in court for quite some time over these debts, borrowings, go from trying to refinance it, try to get some settlement done until it gets to this order from the Lagos Federal High Court. So if you're in that, they would know, and those big investors and fund managers would definitely have folks in the courts and whoever who tells them, look, this is how the judge has decided. And as soon as that, judge court sits at about 9 o'clock in the morning across board, and between 9 and 2:30 when trading closes at the stock exchange, you get a feeler from there that, look, hold on a second, the court has decided against MRS Holdings, which is the parent company for MIS or PLC, and you say, look, you just got to sell down. Now look at the volume. What did we have yesterday? About less than 5,000 units.
4,900.
4,000, so less than 5,000. If you look in the trading engine of the stock exchange, I'm sure you find that the sell order will be much more. Those who are waiting to press the button and say, let's go.
Okay, so what other stories are we tracking in the energy market?
The Shell story is there, 180,000. This was an onslaught. This is not due to vandals, so before folks begin to panic out there. So it was a leak that the Shell is trying to fix. But again, good news that the International Finance Corporation has granted about $73 million to Indorama and others to build the ONE, an oil and gas export facility in Port Harcourt. That's quite big business. That means that gradually, perhaps Rivers State is beginning to catch up with Lagos. Do I mention this viewer? Then I just got to mention that. But there's a viewer, and I'm going to mention this here. We've got a viewer in Kaduna State for a few seconds who wrote 120 letters to about 20 of us here in Charnes, and it's just handwritten. This is the first handwritten letter I'm getting in about 20 years. Posted all the way from Kaduna. One of our viewers, and I'm going to mention her name, she's Mrs. Grace Osawe. She wrote 20 letters and posted them through the Nigeria Post Office.
That means the post office still works.
This is going into my archives. The last I got was about 25 years ago.
We'll come back.
I'm holding up this letter.
Thank you so
I'm holding
much.
On to this.
Business Morning continues after this. Stay with us.